Hey guys, if this is your first time to my channel, hello and welcome. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Emily and today we are going to be talking all about palette redesigns and palette prediction. If you're not already aware of what palette predictions are, I basically make videos on my channel where I try to imagine what a palette would look like before we see the inside of it. Oftentimes, brands will show the outside packaging of an up-and-coming collection or an up-and-coming palette, and I like to just play off of that idea and create in my head and get my creative juices flowing to see what I can come up with for what the palette might actually look like. So if you're interested in watching my previous videos, I will go ahead and link it right up here or here. I'm not entirely sure which corner it's in, but I will go ahead and link it. And I honestly didn't think that I'd be doing another one of these so freaking soon, especially since I did a TooFaced one 2 weeks ago. And here I am, yet again, doing another TooFaced palette prediction. But I recently saw a post on Trendmood's Instagram about the new TooFaced Metal Matte Liquid Lipsticks, which is kind of outdated if you ask me. I don't know, just my opinion. But at the end of the post, there was a picture of an up-and-coming collection called the TooFaced Tutti Frutti collection. I literally saw this post at 12 a.m. last night when I was just browsing Trendmood's page, trying to put together my newest pay or stay away for this week, and I was immediately inspired. So I got to work, I got to putting all these colors together and creating a Tutti Frutti palette and a highlighter and a lip gloss that I think might possibly come out in this up-and-coming collection. Now, we don't really have much information on the collection so far, considering that it was just a photo of the phrase TooFaced Tutti Frutti. And I'm sure that it's going to be quite a while until we actually see the collection, knowing TooFaced. I wanted to just throw my spin on it and give it a try. Now, I also got to redesigning some palettes last night because I don't know, my creative juices were flowing and I was really feeling it, and I wanted to just put together some new up-and-coming makeup releases that I was into but felt like a couple shades could be tweaked here and there. So I stayed up until 4 a.m. redesigning palettes and putting together this Tutti Frutti Make-Believe palette. So let's go ahead and jump on into that, shall we? When I think about Tutti Frutti, I automatically think of the little jelly beans by Jelly Belly that are multicolored, and they're really fruity and tart and delicious, and I'm a big fan of the Tutti Frutti flavor. So I googled Tutti Frutti and I came up with 3 different options. Now, the original Tutti Frutti candy is actually just dried fruit, and it stems out of Italy. And typically, Tutti Frutti fruit was used as a dessert that was often served with nuts, and it typically consisted of cherries, pineapple, and raisins that had all been dried. You're gonna see a theme here with the different rows that I have in this palette. The top row that I put in for this Tutti Frutti palette by TooFaced is an homage to the original Italian version of the Tutti Frutti dessert. So the first shade that I decided to put in is this beautiful, bright, metallic pineapple shade, and it would be called Pineapple, of course. And this is, of course, relating back to the dried pineapple that's in the original dessert. I also wanted to put in a really bright, shiny, metallic cherry red because, of course, we have the cherries in the dessert as well. The last shade in the first row of the palette is a really beautiful plummy raisin matte shade, and I wanted to put this in here because, of course, you can't leave out the raisins, even though I would love to because I freaking hate raisins more than anything. But because the original Italian dessert does have raisins in it, I wanted to put in a really nice, rich raisin colored matte. But the second row in the palette is an homage to the Indian English version of Tutti Frutti, which was the second option that popped up when I was researching the origins of the Tutti Frutti dessert. The Indian English version of Tutti Frutti is all just dried papaya that has been dyed different colors. Typically, they would dye it red, green, and yellow. So, of course, I wanted to model the second row of the palette after the Indian English version of the Tutti Frutti dessert. So the first shade that I put in was just a really beautiful matte papaya peachy orange shade. I literally just googled papaya color on Google, and this was the first shade that popped up for me, and I can't think of a better color that represents papaya. This is a beautiful transition shade. That's why I wanted to put it as the large pan. I feel like a shade like this could work as a transition shade for people of lighter skin and for people of deeper skin. and who doesn't love a good peachy, orangey papaya shade? The second shade that I wanted to put in this row is an homage to the red dyed papaya, but I didn't want this shade to be as red as the metallic red from the first row. I wanted there to be a little bit of variety, a little bit of a difference between the two different reds, so I decided to put in a really bright watermelon pinky red. And I wanted this to be a matte because I feel like you could really pair this with some of the other bright mattes, and I feel like you could pair it with that bright metallic red shade, and I wanted something that would complement the rest of the mattes. And of course, the last shade that I put in this palette is an homage to the dyed green papaya. So I wanted to put in a deep kind of emerald foresty green shade that is also a matte because, as you can see in the next row, we have a really bright kiwi metallic shade, and I wanted something that would complement that, but I feel like this could also complement the bright yellow that we used earlier, and I feel like this could complement basically any shade in this palette. If you pair it with some of the pinks and the reds, you get more of a watermelon-y look. And I really wanted to go for a very fruity vibe with this palette. Of course, it's tutti frutti. We need color, we need fruity shades, and I feel like when you are reaching for a tutti frutti themed palette, you might be a little bit more inclined to go out there with your color selection and do a bit more of a bold, colorful look. And the last row that I put in the tutti frutti palette is dedicated to the very classic, traditional American tutti frutti candy. Now, the tutti frutti candy that we have here in America is very strong in fruit flavor. It's very artificial. It's very sweet and sour at the same time, and it is all very artificially dyed. So I wanted to go for some pretty bright colors that were basically a representation of our artificially dyed candy that we serve to children here in America. When I was researching different types of tutti frutti flavor, especially for the American candy, I found that most of the tutti frutti candy consists of different flavors of candy depending on the color of the candy. So the candy is basically just a mix of watermelon, kiwi, pineapple, and strawberry flavored artificial candy. So I drew inspiration from the kiwi shade, and like I said earlier, I wanted something to really match that emerald green shade that is a matte in the second row, so I put in a very bright, true kiwi metallic green. And I feel like this is perfect for a tutti frutti themed palette because when I think about tutti frutti, just the dessert and the candy in general, I automatically think of very bright artificial looking colors, and I feel like this is perfect. It's definitely bright, it's definitely artificial, and it is very beautiful. And the second shade of the last row is a deeper matte yellow shade, and I wanted something that would work really well with the papaya shade, the watermelon matte that we have, and also that beautiful metallic pineapple-y yellow shade that we have at the beginning of the palette. So I wanted to just put in something that was a bit deeper, that could add a little bit more dimension, but could still be used as a crease shade or an all-over lid shade. And the last color in the palette that I decided to put in is kind of an homage to the strawberry flavor in the artificial American candy version of Tutti Frutti, but because I already had the cherry red and the watermelon red matte, I didn't want to put in just another red. So I decided to go for a very cool toned baby pink metallic, and I feel like this shade could be used as an inner corner highlight, a brow bone highlight, you could use this as a cheek highlight, you could use it all over the lid, and I feel like it works really well with some of these brighter tones. So in the last palette predictions video that I did, I designed essentially a whole collection around the idea of a strawberries and champagne themed TooFaced collection. And when I saw Trenwood's post, I did see that she said that this Tutti Frutti thing was going to be a collection. So I wanted to put in a highlighter because last time I put in some blushes for different skin tones, and this time I want to just put in one highlighter. I would want this highlighter to represent the watermelon aspect of Tutti Frutti because I feel like watermelon is not only really sweet, but it is also a little bit tart, which does represent the Tutti Frutti flavor. So I wanted this highlighter to shift from a pink to a light green. Now I know that sounds really crazy, but I have a blue to peach highlighter that I absolutely love, and it's not too out there and it's not too over the top, it's just very subtle. And so that's basically what I was modeling this after. In some lights it would look a little bit green, but it would mostly look pink. And of course it wouldn't be a deep forest green or anything like that. It would be a light kind of watermelon-y lime green. And to finish out this faux Tutti Frutti collection by TooFaced, I wanted to put in a lip lip product. Now, when the peach collection came out, they came out with these lip oils that were peach flavored and peach scented, and I really enjoyed those, and I know a lot of people did as well. I currently own 2 of the shades, and I really like them. I think it was definitely a hit. I think the formula is down spot on, and I wanted to just add to that. So I decided to make a Tutti Frutti lip gloss. As you can see, the lip gloss is a beautiful watermelon hot pink shade. I would personally want this shade to be a little bit more on the sheer side just because that's my personal preference, and I feel like with these deeper colors and these more bright colored lip glosses, they tend to travel outside the lip line quite a bit more than a typical nude would. So if the product was just a little bit more sheer, then it's more likely to stay in place. And if you're wondering why the text on the bottle that says Tutti Frutti looks so janky, blame TooFaced, not me. I used the text from this, which is Trendmood's initial post about the collection, and this is the only logo that I could find for the up-and-coming Tutti Frutti collection. But I definitely wanted to incorporate it onto the bottle to make it look a little bit more realistic. And of course, all of these products would smell like Tutti Frutti. You cannot have a Tutti Frutti collection without everything smelling like Tutti Frutti. So that is it for the palette predictions. Now I'm gonna go ahead and hop into the palette redesign aspect of this video. So the first palette that I wanted to redesign that is coming out soon is actually a highlighter palette, and it is from Bakerie. It is the new Milk and Honey highlighter palette. So when I saw this, I immediately thought of the Anastasia Beverly Hills Sun Dipped Glow Kit. I even compared pictures of them together, and they look so similar. I feel like at this late in the game, coming out with highlighter palettes, unless you're Anastasia or unless you have some bomb-ass unique type of highlighters, is kind of unnecessary at this point because there's just so many. We are so oversaturated with highlighter palettes and highlighters in general that I feel like things are just going to get swept under the rug if they really don't stand out. I feel like Bakerie could have come out with a highlighter and blush palette, and this would have been way more unique. We do not see enough split pans here in the beauty community. I am dying for half blushes, half highlighters. That would be the perfect combination, and I wanted to just bring that idea into this palette. So instead of having 4 highlighters, I decided to just put in 2 highlighters and 2 blushes. But I wanted to follow the honey theme because I think the milk and honey idea is really cute. So the first shade that I put in is the first highlighter, and I wanted to put in a really warm, peachy, golden highlighter that was more so on the yellow side to represent the honey. And I do know that Bakerie is a Black-owned brand, so I wanted to put in shades that would work for deeper skin tones. So if these look a little bit dark, that is why. The second highlighter that I wanted to put in is a really deep, rich, intense gold shade to also represent the honey. I know that clover honey is a lot deeper and more golden in tone than your typical everyday honey. So I wanted to put in something to represent the clover honey, and I feel like this would be a perfect highlight on deeper skin. And if this looks familiar to you, yeah, it's Laura Geller's Gilded Honey. Okay, I could not pass up the opportunity of putting in not only something that is named honey, but something that is the color of honey and works perfectly with the rest of this palette. So I just had to. So now we're gonna get into the 2 blushes, and I wanted to put in one shimmery blush that could also be used as a highlighter on deeper skin or even a blush topper, and a matte blush as well. So the shimmery blush that I wanted to put in is a more peachy, golden toned highlighter. This blush would have a golden sheen running throughout it that would look really beautiful when it catches the light on the skin, and I wanted to make something that would complement the other 2 highlighter shades in case someone wanted to layer everything up. I decided to go for a kind of peachy nectar shade because when I think of the word nectar, I think of honey as well. I don't know why, but I just do. The last blush that I wanted to put in this palette is a matte nectar honey toned blush as well that I feel like would complement the shimmery blush, especially layered up. So I wanted to make everything really cohesive and be able to work layered as well as individually on their own. And if this shade looks familiar, it's Becca's Wild Honey. Come on, I could not miss out on this opportunity to use 2 of the most popular honey named products that are also both cult favorites in this palette. And if you are wondering, these are all actually existing highlighters or blushes that are out on the market, so I will just go ahead and link them down below. With the Tutti Frutti palette, that was all my doing, that was just textures from Google and whatnot. But with this palette, I really wanted to use the 2 products that are already out on the market that do have the honey undertone in them and that are also named honey as well. So I decided to just go for 2 existing products products as well. This way, if this palette does intrigue you and you do want to pick something up like this, then you have some options to actually do so. And the last palette that I was inspired to redesign is the new Jeffree Star Thirsty palette. Now I know. Jeffree Star is kind of an ass and not everyone likes him for good reason. So I understand that people don't want to buy his product and whatnot. But I was intrigued by this palette. I am a huge sucker for corals. I think everyone and their mother and their entire family and their family's third stepson twice removed knows this fact about me. So obviously I was drawn into the coral shades of this palette. But I'm not going to be picking it up, and the reason why I'm not going to is because I don't feel like the rest of the palette is very cohesive with the theme of thirsty and summer, and he went after a popsicle theme. Middle row of this new palette is supposed to be a new formula for him, and it's a buttery, smooth, ultra metallic formula that is best applied with your finger. And we've heard that before, and some of those formulas have not turned out that great, but we shall see, I guess. But I didn't feel like the colors that he chose were very summery or popsicle-y at all. They were mostly beiges and grays and bronzes. I feel like he could have gone for something that was a little bit brighter and a little bit more on the summer, thirsty, popsicle theme. So I decided to take matters into my own hands and do that myself. So I noticed that the first shade in the palette was kind of a stark off cream white, if you will. And I understand the need for having one of those in a palette, but literally every palette has one of those in it. And I'm sure we all have enough off cream whites. So instead of doing just the basic traditional cream white, I wanted to put in something that was a little bit peachier, a little bit deeper in tone, but still had neutral undertones. This way you could use it with not only the warm tones in the palette, but with the cool toned aquas and whatnot. I wanted something that would work for multiple skin tones, so it's not the deepest peach in the world, but I did still want to put in something that was light. But I wanted to change the undertone and deepen it just a touch so that it's actually a shade that can be used by more skin tones if they were to purchase this palette. The second shade in the first row I left alone completely. I love that shade. It is beautiful. If he sold singles, I would buy that shade right now. The third shade that I wanted to change is the corally peachy shade that is in the first row. And I like this shade a lot, but from my experience with using the Huda Beauty Coral Obsessions palette, there is a shade that's very similar to this shade in that palette, and it's almost like a muted, more pinky coral. So I haven't really had the best of luck with that shade. It blends out to be a lot more sheer and a lot less pigmented than I would like it to be. And I think it's not only because of the Huda formula, but I think it also has to do with the shade. Because it is a muted coral, it kind of just gets lost in my eye look and it doesn't really stand out like I typically like a bright coral to stand out, especially in a bright, summery, punchy, fun palette. So I decided to just amp it up a little bit, and why not just go for a neon hot coral? So I decided to change the more muted pinky coral to a very hot, vibrant neon coral shade. With the orange in the first row, to me, at least on the picture that I am looking at, doesn't look super vibrant. Now, I know that Jeffree said in his launch video that it was going to be pretty vibrant, and maybe it's just this promo photo because we haven't really seen promo photos. I think this is just a screenshot that someone took of the actual video on his YouTube channel, and Trendmood posted it to her account, but this is all I have to go off of. So to me, that orange looks a little bit more dull than I would typically like an orange to be. You're gonna hear me say this about 103 times with this palette, but it is supposed to be a bright, fun, summery, popsicle themed palette. And let's just go there with the creamsicle goodness, and I went ahead and put in a really bright creamsicle orange matte. The whole packaging for the collection is neon orange, so I feel like it's only fitting that one of the shades in the palette is also a bright neon orange. So for the last shade in the first row, it's kind of the same situation as the orange. I can't really tell if it's just the picture that I have here, but the red doesn't look to be super vibrant, so I wanted to just amp it up just a touch because why not just give us full neon pigment? Typically, Jeffree Star fans and Jeffree Star consumers come to him for the very bright, out there, wild shades. So if you're gonna do a red, you might as well just give us a very bright, in-your-face, statement-making red. So the middle row of the new ultra metallic formula that he put in is where I did the majority of the changes to this palette. So he had a lot of silvery tones, which I guess goes with the blue, so I do understand that, but to me, silver doesn't really match the more orangey and the more red tones that he has in the palette, and he doesn't really have a whole lot to really match those red tones other than just your basic bronze. And you can get bronze literally anywhere. I'm not coming to Jeffree Star for bronze, okay? I'm coming to Jeffree Star for some color and some pigment. So I changed out the more cool toned silver that is the first shade in the middle row, and I wanted to put in a duochrome because I've never seen Jeffree Star do a duochrome. I feel like if he worked in the lab enough and put his mind to it, that man could probably perfect a duochrome shadow because he has a good formula, and I feel like he really could do a duochrome well. So I wanted to put in a duochrome because I would like to see that from him and more brands in general. I would love to see more duochromes here in the makeup world. But I put in a peach to pink shift duochrome. I wanted just a basic one that would go really well with the orange, that would go well with the more warm tones in the palette. And you could even pair it with the aqua if you wanted to, if you were going for a watermelon look or a very summery look. But I wanted something that would basically complement the warm tones. So one thing that I have noticed that is a pretty big complaint amongst the people that I've seen comment on Trend Mood's post is that the yellow doesn't really seem to go with a whole lot of shades in this palette. Now granted, you can use it with the warmer tones, you can pair it with the blues if you wanted to, but I feel like there really should have been a corresponding shimmer shade to go with that yellow shade. Because if you're going for a summery look, when I think summery and bright, I think of pink and I think of yellow, and I can just imagine doing a beautiful 2 eyeshadow look in the summer using a very bright matte yellow shade in the crease and then finishing out the look by tapping on a really bright, beautiful foiled yellow shade. And I feel like that fits into the popsicle theme really well. It also kind of matches up with a lemonade theme if you're thinking about the thirsty aspect of this palette. What do you drink in summer when you're thirsty? Probably lemonade. Or maybe vodka. I'm not here to judge, but I think of lemonade when I think of the summer, and I feel like this palette was really missing a corresponding color that went with the yellow matte. So I wanted to replace that bronze that was in the middle of this metallic row with a really fiery metallic orange. I feel like this would be perfect with the matte red. This would be perfect with the matte orange, of course. It'd be beautiful with the coral. Basically, this would work really well with that whole upper row. And I don't feel like any of these metallics that he put in represented the creamsicle orange factor of the whole collection. So I wanted to put in a metallic version of the entire color that he used for this collection. So moving right along down the row here, it looks like he put in just another variation of a kind of metallic gunmetal gray shade with a hint of purple, and I think the shade is pretty. There is no metallic blues in this palette, and I feel like when you put in 2 different types of aqua, tealish, bright matte blue, you kind of need to put in something that will work with that on the lid, especially for a bright, summery, colorful palette. I wanted to put in a really bright, ultra foiled metallic aqua blue shade that would work perfectly with the blues that he's put in this palette. You could use it with any shade in this palette, to be honest, and I wanted something to really represent being at the pool, because oftentimes when it is 102 degrees outside, all you want to do is jump right into a pool. Except me, because I can't swim and I would probably drown and die. But for most people, they want to just jump into a pool and cool the heck off. And the last metallic that I wanted to put in is also a deeper metallic blue shade, but I wanted this to be a duochrome as well. Like I said, I want more duochromes from every brand in general, so I figured putting in a blue duochrome that would really match some of the cooler tones in this palette is only fair because I put in that warm duochrome that matches the warm tones in the palette. So I wanted this duochrome to start out as a really light teal shade and have a sapphire blue flip to it. I feel like that would be absolutely beautiful. We do not see shades like that ever in the beauty community, and I feel like if he brought that, it would be really game-changing and it would work perfectly with a lot of these blue tones that he has put in. Moving on to the last row here, I decided to keep that kind of taupey brown transition shade that he put in. I feel like that might be a good transition shade for deeper skin tones, and I feel like there needs to be one neutral in here that can help kind of calm down some of these brighter colors if you did want to do a more subdued look. So I went ahead and kept that shade. I also went ahead and kept that beautiful bright matte yellow, and I wanted to keep the bright aqua as well, because you don't see bright blue aqua shades very often. I wanted to change up the more teal version of this aqua blue shade that he put in next to it, because to me they just look too similar and I don't feel like you'd really be able to tell a difference on the eyes, and there wasn't a whole lot of deepening shades other than a dark brown and that taupe shade for these blues. So I wanted to put in something that could be used as a deepening shade for the blue tones and the cool tones in this palette. So I put in a mid-toned matte teal shade. I feel like you could definitely deepen up an aqua blue look with this. I feel like this would be beautiful with those two metallics that are in the center of the palette there that are of the more blue nature. And the last shade that I wanted to put in was basically something to just round out the rest of the blues and the cool tones. I wanted to put in an even deeper teal shade that could be used as a teal smoky eye color. It could be definitely used with the two metallic blues. It can be used with the lighter blue shades, and you can even pair it with the coral or the red if you're really feeling adventurous. But that is all I have for you guys today as far as palette redesigning and palette predicting goes. That was a lot. I've been talking for a real long time here, but I really enjoy doing videos like this, and I really love redesigning palettes and coming up with really cool creative ideas for palettes. I'm not sure when that Tutti Frutti collection is going to be out, probably not for a while, but I'm really excited to see how it compares to what I created today. And as far as the other palettes go, they're still really pretty, but I just feel like they could be amped up just a little bit. So I really do enjoy doing videos like this. If you are not already aware, Makeup Struggles here on YouTube was the first person that I saw to do the palette redesign part of this video. So if you haven't already checked her out, I definitely suggest doing so if you enjoyed my video, because she has all sorts of amazing videos like this on her channel where she designs a bunch of palettes. But with that, I am going to be wrapping up today's video. I do hope that you consider subscribing if you have not already. I have all sorts of makeup goodness happening here on this channel, and apparently I am doing palette predictions way more than I thought I was going to. So if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more from me, I would love to see you hit that button down below. I hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day wherever you are, and thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time. Bye!